Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Green, and today we're going to be playing another premiere draft of Edge of Eternities. Still very early in the format, getting our sea legs here, or our space legs, I guess, with Edge of Eternities. So definitely going to be reading a lot of the cards, particularly the rares. Lightstall Inquisitor, this will be, I think, actually my second time playing with this. I think we opened it in sealed once, but a 1 mana 2/1 Vigilance that is going to exile a card from our opponent's hand and tax that spell. Now it's going to cost them one more to play it, or if they play a land out of exile with this, that is going to be now a tap land, even if it was an untapped basic instead. So pretty solid stuff. 1 mana 2/1 Vigilance with a bonus ability of any kind is already pretty absurd. I'm just going to take that and try to play something aggressive in white here, because now we've got a very powerful aggressive 1-drop. Nothing insane to follow that up with out of white. We could take the Dawnstrike Vanguard, I suppose. 6 mana is a lot of mana, but pretty powerful ability here. If you control 2 or more tapped creatures during your end step, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, other than this creature, but still, that is getting a lot of +1/+1 counters on the board. Alternative ways to go here are cheap removal like Plasma Bolt, the decent card draw, the Cryogen Relic in blue, or Bonder's Enclave, I think, is pretty strong in the right deck. If you've got a decent amount of creatures with power 4 or greater, this is a land that turns into a card draw engine when you're flooding out, so there's definitely paths to take there if you don't want to stay too glued to white and just be a little more open. Pick 3 now. Again, just playing it real simple. Just take the Fine Filler 2 drop out of white. Starfighter Pilot. I have not played with any of these uncommons enough to be particularly impressed by any of them, so just take a solid on-color common. Because same with these commons here, I don't think any of these are super strong reasons to push into a different direction, but I have been impressed by the Land Seeker. Pick 4, alright, rewarded. We get a great on-color removal spell. Pick number 4, a decent sign towards white, but I've also been impressed by Gravkill and Nebula Dragon so far. So those are reasonable options in other colors. Pick 5, take another Banishing Light, don't mind if I do. Pick number 6, let's go. This is going to be a nice, simple draft, at least the first pack. And Night Luminary, this is multiple creatures off of the one spell. If you don't have a 2-drop in your hand, you also get to warp this and get a creature early. So this could be 3 creatures off just one spell if you have nothing else to do on turn 2, but even 4 mana for a 3/2 and a 1/1's already decent. Like the Night Luminary a lot. There are multiple different mechanics in this set that do benefit from having a wide board, having a lot of creatures out. I guess not necessarily mechanics, but sort of archetypes that benefit from that. One of them is the one that cares about having 2 or more tapped creatures. There are a lot of cards that care about having 2 or more tapped creatures, so the wider your board is, the easier it is to get that. And then there's also cards that just care about the number of like creatures or artifacts on your board that can benefit from that as well. Pick 7, Auxiliary Boosters. It's a card I've died to a few times. Just being able to get some flying in the end game has been solid. It's a 5-drop, so it is somewhat replaceable in the fact that you can't have too many super expensive cards in your deck unless you are a green deck with a lot of Ramper tokens, Lander tokens technically, but I think Ramper is a fine apt name, even if it was a misspeak. Pick number 8 now. Here's one of those cards I was talking about. The Lux Knight Breacher cares about the creatures and artifacts on our board, so benefits a little bit from cards like Night Luminary. I like the Survey Mech in theory. I think this is really good for a green-based deck with a ton of Lander tokens, but probably the Breacher here. Although there's also an interesting little Double Strike card that might not be terrible. Mono White, baby. Watch us get to be Mono White the whole draft. I think this counterspell is the most likely to get played. That and the Temporal Intervention. Although it's really not a reason to consider ourselves any more tied to blue than any other secondary color. So I'm just going to put it in the sideboard for now. That way I'm making sure it's not really affecting my pick order as we open our rare at a pack 2. So our pack 2 rare is the Osteoharmonist, where we can return creatures from our graveyard to the battlefield as a skeleton with no abilities. They do keep the power and toughness. We get to beat down with those. We get to trade off with those. Black-white seems like a decent color pair for the Osteoharmonist, so I don't mind finally pushing into a secondary color for that rare. I think I will go ahead and do that. What am I losing out on by speculating here? 6 mana reanimation spell that turns into a big flyer. It's probably fine to pass up. Pack 2, pick 2. The only white spell is Zealous Display, a pretty mediocre board buffing effect. So I'd rather just take the best black spell, which is Fell Graveship. I have enjoyed this card. It is a 3 mana, mill 3, then return a creature or spacecraft from your grave to your hand. And it stations for 8. So if you have a 4 power creature on board, just tap that 2 turns in a row, and this is active as a 3/2 flying and lifelink. The real power of the station mechanic is when you're in like an aggressive position, so where you don't need to hold up blockers too much, you just get to tap your creatures the turn that they're summoning sick anyway. So like the turn I play a Dawnstrike Vanguard in the late game, potentially, I cast that, and then if I don't need it up as a blocker, I'm immediately halfway to a stationed Graveship. Pick 3, Virus Beetle's been a little unimpressive to me. I've played a whole ton of Virus Beetles in this set already, in the format already. But if I were to take an on-color card, it would probably be Virus Beetle. It would be that or the Exosuit Savior. But the other thing I want to consider here is that I'm, again, not that tied to black yet. I'm only really tied to white, so we could speculate on Halia Ascendant Cadet, which is a pretty powerful card for a green-white counters deck. So I'm going to get a little speculative on that pick for Halia. And now for pick number 4, we can take a Dock Worker Drone to synergize with Halia and the green-white counters deck in general. Alternatively, there's a Radiant Strike. I'd definitely take a Banishing Light over Dock Worker Drone, but Radiant Strike is a lot less flexible. Specifically, only artifacts and tapped creatures that it can kill. Pick 5, we've got a filler creature or a filler removal spell here. I think Focus Fire better than Seam Rip. We're pretty deep into white, which means we're going to be pretty aggressive. We're going to have a pretty high creature count, and that makes Focus Fire solid. We'll have a lot of stuff on board for it. The Seam Rip just really narrow, only killing 1 and 2 mana cards. Not helping at all near the late game. Pick 6 now. I don't love Meltstrider Eulogist, but it's probably better than Ice Cave Crasher here. The only thing that I don't love about this kind of card is that, like, it has no self-synergy, right? If I have nothing else going on with +1/+1 counters, this is a 3 mana 3/3 with no text, and that's really bad. So we do really need to find a lot of Dock Worker Drone type cards to go with that. Pick 7, All Fate Stalker is fantastic. You have some Enter the Battlefield effect synergies as well as Warp synergies, plus it's just a 4 mana removal spell on a stick. A lot of different ways to use that card well. Pick 8, Flight Deck Coordinator for a filler 3 mana creature, or take a Godless Shrine and try to go splashing around for a Graveship, I guess. Can't really splash a double black spell like the Osteoharmonist here, though. I'm just going to take a filler 3-drop. If this were a paper draft, I'm rare drafting. Pick number 9, Exosuit Savior for enter effects. Probably better than the Zealot. Pick 10, a little bit of ramp and fixing. If nothing else, it's a fine filler addition. Same with the Nutrient block. But those will be some of our first cuts when we make it to 23 non-land cards. Alright, pack 3. Pick number 1. So the Sunstar Lightsmith is a card draw engine all by itself. I mean, you do have to cast other spells, but they can be any kind of spells. They don't have to be anything really specific. Plus, it has +1/+1 counter synergies. I feel like this Lightsmith looks pretty legit here. The other options are really just a couple of good removal spells like Diplomatic Relations and Melt Strider's resolved. Those would definitely be fine. But I am on at least 4 removal spells here, so I think I can spend the pick on the Lightsmith. Factory pick 2. I've been very impressed by Siege Ship Agrarian in Sealed and in big rampy decks. This is neither of those, but it's still probably decent in here. It has +1/+1 counter synergies and just has a beat stick spitting out a lander token every turn. It's kind of crazy. Honestly like it better than the Broodguard Elite. I don't think this is great at either mana cost, but it does have slightly better synergy than Agrarian. I feel like Agrarian's enough better to take it there. Pick 3. Dockworker Drone is a great one to help with our Eulogist and Halia synergies. Galactic Wayfarer is just an absurdly good card at common. 3 mana, 3/3 plus draw rampant growth onto the board. Wayfarer is ridiculous, but I think Dockworker Drone's better in this deck. We're trying to be pretty aggressive and we don't have a lot of 2 mana creatures, so we really need more of those. Plus this hits that really important +1/+1 counter synergy. Pick number 4. Another Focus Fire. Another Lightsmith. Go for the Lightsmith here. I've got a clump at 4 mana. That might be a little awkward. Pick number 5. Weftblade Enhancer has great synergy. Gives us 1 more random top end card in the endgame. Biosynthetic Burst is also fine. Combat Trick with a lot of synergy, or the Stinger for a 2-drop, cut some 4 mana stuff for that. I think I'm going Enhancer here though. Pick 6, another Night Luminary is just a good card in general, and there's pretty much nothing else. I could take a Scrap Bot for a lander, but we'll go Luminary. These are 2 mana 1/1s. We can fill out our 2-drop curve. They're just not good 2-drops. Guess this has +1/+1 counter synergies, but I don't even know if I'm playing the first copy. Another Radiant Strike. Starport Security. Alright, green, white, +1/+1 counters is going to be the deck today. We've got 5 removal spells, a whole chunk of creatures. This looks pretty fine. Have not played this archetype yet. I'd say that I haven't really seen this in action, but I technically have played against it a few times. None of the games were super memorable. I don't remember my opponents with their counter decks like super popping off outside of like games where I was already just stuck on mana. I remember like one of them just like curved out on me, but basically any deck curving out on me would have killed me in that game. Yeah, this will be interesting for sure. I think this is the core curve of creatures that we want. These are all of our best creatures at each of these mana values. I mean, I'm definitely running some filler at 3. Mainly the Coordinator, but probably better than the Bright Spear Zealots. Certainly like all of our other 4s better than our Lux Knight Breachers. Which is like, yes, I do like Lux Knight Breacher more than I like Bright Spear Zealot, more than I like Flight Deck Coordinator, but... And then our mana curve is just a giant chunk of 4s. If I put these things back in, I want to be curving out in at least a few games, so I think I gotta cut these. Because I also have Luminaries at 4, so I have so much 4 mana stuff. Yeah, I mean, these have to be the first cuts. It's just some 4 mana cards. Get out of here, Breachers. Similarly, reasons I have so much high mana value stuff and things really clumping up at like 4, where I can go 4-drop turn 4, 4-drop turn 5. Probably going to drop the boosters. Certainly dropping the block and the curiosity. I don't care about the ramp. And then Starport Security is certainly a bit better when you've got double Lightsmith in the deck, so we'll run that and then just cut 1 Zealot. That looks fine. Yeah, I don't think anything really good is sitting on the sideline here. I mean, Curiosity and Nutrient Block do have a little bit of synergy with our Sunstar Lightsmiths, at least, because of the mana value, having more 1 mana value things to do. But I don't think we need to build around those too much. I think they should already be pretty solid. That's just a few ones. Warp cards help them as well, because they'll just have random 4 mana value stuff sitting in exile late game for like turn 7. Maybe a Luminary and a 3-drop. Yeah, we'll see. I think we can run it like this. It's actually pretty close to mono white at this point. We're running 3 green cards. That's super cute. We can go for a 10-7 split. Have a pretty easy mana base here. Just mulligan any hand without a plains in it. We're on 18 creatures and 5 non-creatures, so a very high creature count. But we are trying to be pretty aggressive and trying to curve out, so that should be fine. I like that this deck has multiple ways to get some card draw, get some card advantage going so that we don't run out of stuff to do. We can keep pressuring our opponent. We can draw cards with Halia, Double Lightsmith, and Eulogist, potentially. So that does feel pretty important for any more aggressive strategy in this format. That's been our biggest flaw. In a lot of our other decks that have just been around that 4-3 mark, we just like run out of stuff to do. And this deck has a few ways to try not to do that. Yeah, this looks pretty neat. We'll see how it plays out for us as we hop into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the draw for game 1, with nothing till turn 4 for our aggro deck. We've got both of our colors and multiple pieces of interaction, and this is a good card at gaining value throughout a game, but this format has a lot of good removal. I don't want to be in a game where I sit there till turn 4 and then they just blow up the 1 creature in my hand. So I'm going to mulligan towards something more aggressive here, and this is certainly a bit better. I think I have to get rid of the 6-drop. Certainly not happy to be down a card to start things off, but we are on the draw. So we do get our card back pretty quickly. Playing against green, blue, which has a terrifying late game. Lots of ramp available in the color pair. And then they just play absolutely astronomically large threats later. Warp a Luminary here. I don't think it's worth waiting and trying to do the Stalker Wombo combo. Just get my 1/1 now and I can just hardcast Luminary next turn. Beat down a little bit quicker this way. Okay. We are going to be in a nightmare scenario. If this game goes too much longer, our opponent's already at 6 mana and they have an incredible Eldrazi rare. Draws them a card, puts something into play when it leaves the battlefield, and it's a 7/5. And it was 4 mana draw a card, play anything for 4 or less. They chose to just play a land, so I guess they just ramp and draw a card. That was kind of the least bad case scenario from the warp on that Vestige, at least. So there's that for us. Wow. Focus Fire is maybe just insane in in green-white. This might be a little greedy, but I'm gonna get my warp value before I kill anything with the Stalker. I mean, Focus Fire might just be insane in white in general. White's really the color that's just spitting out all these little baby creatures. With the Night Luminary plus Focus Fire. And this thing's at 8 damage for 1 mana. That's so dumb. There's the Vestige. Triggers when it leaves the battlefield for any reason. So if I exile it, they do get to play a replacement creature. But that replacement creature will hit the board tapped, and they'll take quite a bit of damage still. Just a land. They had no 7 mana or less play there. No 7 mana or less permanent, I should say. They could have big non-permanent spells. This has an enter trigger, so I have to pre-combat this for the extra point of damage. So what's going to happen here, most likely? They're probably killing all Fate Stalker at instant speed or bouncing it and then killing something on blocks, so we need to go as wide as possible and spread out our threats. So they just kill the Stalker and, like, the Starfighter pilot and take a bunch. I don't mind keeping security here. Being able to tap down their big green creatures is going to be a big deal. And it's a 1 mana play to go with the Lightsmith. Although if they have bounce removal instead of permanent removal, I probably do put that on top still. Instead. Okay. Kind of got by auto-tapping there. I should have tapped out of the green, because I don't have any green 1-drops in the deck. But if I ended up surveilling into a white 1-drop like I did, and then drawing into it, I could have played the security off of the plains. It didn't end up mattering, because we did put the Stalker on top. And I wasn't going to put that on bottom just to play security then. Well, it probably would have been worth it if I thought that far ahead, but I don't think I would have done that. Uh-oh. They're going to play something tapped for 0 here. It's going to be the, like, giant removal spell thing, or... No, they're just desperately digging. So I'm guessing they were trying to find... There's like a 7-mana 6/6 flyer that gives all of your opponent's board -3/-0 till end of turn. So that would give them one last chance to draw into that. They could draw into it off of that ability and then play it for free and still have a chance to not die that next swing. But they didn't find exactly that. So 1-0, great, great stuff from just white aggro. Certainly keep this hand. I mean, 2 mana for a 1/1 again, not the best stats ever for what I'm doing on turn 2. But that Night Luminary was really impressive for that first game for us. Cryogen Relic, another blue-green deck here to slow us down and ramp into the big stuff. So, lucky stuff for them, they are on the play. They're going to need all the tempo they can get. Oh, Lord have mercy. Sig's Appraiser's busted cousin is here. Draw the best 2 cards out of your top 4 and get a 2/1 onto the board. That is a great draw, so that I can double spell here and put as much pressure on our opponent as possible while they're still sort of setting up, because they're just going to play a 2/1 next turn. Although they are going to have a full grip of cards. And go for the Mechan instead. Just play as big of a blocker as they can as possible. Fair enough, I don't mind that at all. We can Radiant Strike and just jam 4. Or I can keep playing to the board and just drop Luminary or Agrarian for now. I like the idea of Luminary or Agrarian setting up for a bigger swing next turn. Because next turn it's probably Codecracker Hound. I blow up the Mechan and then just attack with everybody into the Hound. Oh, one mana removal is very bad for me. So they can shut off the Agrarian and play the Hound at worst? This is going to be some card I've never seen before. Some weird way to, like, exile this and put it back into play. Oh, they're just getting wildly aggressive. Okay. Is there one green mana combat trick to untap somebody? Yeah, I don't know what I am missing here. No, I guess they just think they're in the aggressive lead. So they probably just have some supreme beef coming up and they're just not concerned in the slightest about what's currently happening. Really looking to hit like 5 mana to double spell these two. I could sack this Agrarian to get one lander. It does have to destroy itself when it gets tapped, sadly. But I can still attack with it for a chump attack one time to get the lander token. Could also just wait. It keeps its abilities. If I landfall enough, then one of its attacks is not going to be a chump attack. Alright, massive blocker, and I am missing too many land drops to pay for that ward. I would have needed my 5th land here. Alas, it's been a couple turns since we hit one. So, man, I can't double spell either. This is a particularly rough turn. Could tap that with security, but then I'm not getting through the mech in anyway. Just passing, holding up a Radiant Strike for Mechan. Then I go untap land Banishing Light in an ideal world. Or do I just play the Eulogist here? When we're this stuck on mana, I'm gonna try to make the most of it every turn. Spend 4 now, spend 5 next turn. If I like play a 3-drop now, miss a land drop, and play a 3-drop again kind of thing, things are going to be so awkward. So I'm just going to get the 4-drop out of the way immediately. Welcome to my face. Or not. Nobody's going face. Hexproof trick. Oh. Might have to sack Agrarian now. Which is not enjoyable. If I could wait to where I have a Eulogist on board and then I sack the Agrarian, at least I can have a +1/+1 counter on it before it dies so that I get to draw a card. If I wait till I draw one land naturally and then get the lander token off of it. I don't think I can afford to do so any longer. The draws are just bad. we get a Eulogist on this board and it's not interacted with, I will be more than happy to start chumping. But until then, I'd like to keep these around. Flyers, not good for me. But it's far from the scariest thing they could do for 7. Surveil 2 both to the top? Shuffler's got plans for our opponent. And they like those plans. Still no land drawn, but we did get to lander to the 5th. So I can Halia. But now that I've played my 2-drop drone, this is probably just play a 3-drop and that's it. I guess I have my 2-mana Starport security ability at least. I think we want a Eulogist on this board. They could have the, there's a 1 and a blue bounce spell, to where if I chump attack with the counter creatures and they bounce the Eulogist, that's really bad for me. There's also a 1 and a red deal 3, to where if I chump attack with those and then they just deal 3 to Eulogist before my attack goes through, that's also really bad, so I'm not going to go for it there. They have the bounce spell. Alright, at least it's not the deal 3, but that's certainly not good. Yikes! Craterhoof Behemoth called. He's a common now. Yeah, I mean, that's just game. Godmaw is a filthy, filthy card. We've just missed far too many lands to put any pressure on our opponent. Can banish that, still die to everybody else. I'm basically good to scoop here, but it should only take another turn or 2 to die. Oh no. That's a lot of text, and that is a rare symbol. Station 2. At the beginning of combat, up to 1 other creature you control becomes an artifact with base power 2/2 and gains flying. And this becomes a 4/4 flying vigilance. Okay, yeah, that's really bad. So it's a 2/2 flyer already, and then it's a 4/4 flying vigilance and a 2/2 flyer. That is a ton of flying damage for 1 blue mana. You have to station it a bunch, but you only have to station 2 to get your lander token hitting me for 2 a turn. Alright, Mega dead. Technically not dead on board, but dead next turn, no matter what we draw on this deck, so 2-1 heading into game number... That might be 1-1 actually, that was a pretty long game. I think it's 1-1 heading to game 3. Alright, here we are for game 3, Snap Keep. Need to draw lands pretty badly, as we needed to last game, but this time we have a Surveiller starting on turn 3 when we get that attack off. So we can do some digging and mill a bunch of non-land cards, if they don't blow it up immediately. They are a red deck, so they have the 1 mana burn spell at common. Red and black, 2 very, very removal heavy colors. There's like 4 different ways at common for 2 or less mana to kill this pilot. So let's hope they don't have any of those. There's a 1 red deal 2. There's 1 and a black, -3, -0. And then if that creature has 0 or less power, then it dies. Maybe it's actually only 2 commons. Every other way I can think of is an uncommon, but there's a whole bunch of those uncommon ways. I mean, I have literally nothing else to do with this warp mana. I'll poke them for one more. Get milled, non-land card. I've been going down a lot on Hymn of the Faller lately. I've played this in a ton of decks, because in theory it's quite good when you void with it. The issue I've had with it is there's been a lot of games it's just been on my hand as my only like 2-mana or less play, to where it's like I kind of have to just run it out. And so both on my board and opponents' boards, I've just seen a lot of times where you just run it out on turn 2 and it's just very insignificant as a 2-drop. I think Voidborn's abilities are good enough to just rip that off the board here. Keep digging for my lands. Oh god. One of my strongest spells has to get milled. I can't afford to keep a 5-drop on top of my deck, because then I know I'm not drawing a land next turn, and then I have a 5-mana play that needs 2 more lands to get to. It's just way too far away with 2 4-mana cards in my hand already. Okay. Caveron Harrier doesn't really do much. But I would like to be able to keep attacking with this Starfighter Pilot. Suppose we keep these other removal spells for something bigger. And we just play the Stalker now, and it's just not the end of the world if they kill this. And get back a 2-1. So they could instant speed removal the Stalker and get the trade here, is the worst case scenario. But I do have enough lands for every spell in my hand currently, and enough lands for the Radiant Strike, so it is okay if Pilot dies now. A Chump Block. They must have a board wipe coming up. Yeah, a 0-point ballot for 3, sure. Card is good. So the creature that this makes sacrifices itself at the end of combat. Okay, it's not a particularly big deal. If they have a cheap enough removal spell to kill this and activate that. If this made like a permanent creature, then I would probably have to just play removal spell here, but if they kill this and hit me for 4, whatever, that's fine. Okay, kill it and hit me for 2 is the play. Well, I'm gonna have to draw a threat. Probably should have waited to cast that. Can just still do it when they declare the attack anyway. Man, this is gonna be a sad, super long loss if we lose this one. Because the big turning point of the game, the big losing thing going on here, is that our opponent 3 for 1 dust with a board wipe. So that was certainly the most impactful play of the game, even if it isn't going to be a play that's happened within the past like 5 turns. By the time that we actually lose, that was the point that our opponent got a big swing in card advantage that won them the game. Those are always the worst kind of losses, when your opponent basically won like 10 turns before they actually did. But we are in a semi-top deck war, and I just hit a really good one here. Definitely warping this so that if they don't have the instant speed removal, I'm getting as many tokens out of it as possible before it dies. If they do have the instant speed removal, it's the exact same as hard casting it. They just kill it before it goes to exile, and I can't recast it and get another 1-1. Pinnacle Killship a 1-1. So they have infinite removal then, is what they're saying. Oh my god. I'm gonna throw a deal 10 at my next 3-2 now. And the 1/1 token it makes, I bet. I've got the Radiant Strike for the kill ship, so we're not really worried about the ship itself. But the fact that they were willing to do that means the hand has got to be just like all removal here. Yeah, kill the Luminary. Station the kill ship. I get to keep 1/1/1? Let's go. My little buddy's unstoppable. 10-turn clock. There's another threat, though. Kaboop. I should have done that in response to them stationing it into becoming a vehicle, actually. Because... there's like an indestructible combat trick that would have been really deadly if they had that there. Another instant speed removal spell? No. I do get to kill the 4/3. Hurts. They have indeed not run out of removal. There goes Agrarian. I didn't even commentate anything there, but I think you can probably determine what was going through my head. I was like, it would be really good if it's not just gonna die here. There's these mock site style card draw spells that are excellent in a top deck war. Nutrient block cycles itself away. It's a good one. It's so crazy how far ahead on cards they are. That they can spend 3 cards for every Night Luminary I keep casting. Because he had the 3-for-1 board wipe. This was a draw 2 plus get a robot. So it was also like a 3-for-1 basically. Because they just discard an extra land that's worthless at that point. Don't think I tapped that right, obviously. Because I could have drawn Lightstall Inquisitor. But on the plus side, they didn't have instant speed removal for Lightsmith. Well, no, even if they had instant speed removal for Lightsmith, the way priority works is they couldn't kill it until I already drew the card anyway. So they probably do, actually. But technically, if Lightsmith doesn't die, then it might actually be a benefit that I still have Inquisitor in hand, because then any spell I draw draws me another card next turn. I highly doubt that they don't have removal, though, because they literally just embrace Oblivion at 1/1. Okay. They pick up their 2 best creatures from grave, which is a Harrier, and then the +1/+0 to everybody team leader, Kavu. I'm confused. Literally 2 turns ago, They embrace Oblivion to 1/1, and then they don't have a way to kill the 3/2 that they knew I was going to play because it was in exile? I'm so confused, but if that's how things are playing out here, I think I just hold on to the Inquisitor. Because that means Lightsmith has a chance of still being around. The active treason plus a card draw here. This is going to be backbreaking. Go to 1 life. It's the most damage I can stop. Yeah, that's just dead. Can't even draw a spell for my Lightsmith. No. I'm just dead on board to Harrier now. What a wild Embrace Oblivion then. Alright, I mean it worked, I'm dead. As we said before, pretty much lost when the board wipe happened. But man, did I get a lot of turns after that. 1 and 2 heading into game number 4. Here we are for game 4, nothing till turn 3. Only 1 color of mana, but at least it's our main color. If I don't hit any lands, I can't do anything. And unless I consistently hit lands, I just like play 1 coordinator and then I'm stuck. I think I have to mulligan. Oh my god, Arena, not like this! This deck is so much better than this hand, at least. But I feel like than the hands we've been drawing in general. That's so disappointing. Mull to 5, we have to keep basically anything at this point. Our opponent's got to have a real bad hand at this point. I think I keep Agrarian because it can accrue a lot of value if left unchecked. And all Fate Stalker, whenever they kill it, has done basically nothing. At least the Agrarian, even if it lives for like a single turn, has accomplished something before it died. It's really suspicious holding up priority there from me. I should have thought through the focus fire a little bit faster so that they don't know exactly what I have in my hand here, but what are you going to do? I was really considering killing a Scrapper. But there's a modifier to kill that's much better. I guess the problem is how my mana lines up. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to focus fire the modifier. I could focus fire the sweeper. The mana is a problem here. So if I just keep this focus fire, next turn I Agrarian, they crew and send in the sweeper, and I don't have the mana up there. So I won't be playing the fire for a long time. Maybe I should have just killed the Scrapper turn 1 like I was considering. Stop a little extra damage that way. Please do not have the kill for Agrarian. I would appreciate it greatly. Okay, Agrarian ramps into the Enhancer to play next turn. Hit for 6. No, the Meme Lord. Meme Lord, the right hand. They cast all of the artifacts off the top of their deck. So if they have a high artifact count, that's a massive card draw engine. Two-turn kill's a two-turn kill. I like being able to chump, but they're going to kill me in 2 turns either way. And not in 1 turn. I guess I have a 2-turn kill even without the enhancer on the board, don't I? Even if I don't crack any landers, 7 damage twice is a kill. Not to just play a chump and kill me in the sky. I think I have to play Savior. Then pick up a land for Agrarian. No! Stun a tapped creature! No, Agrarian, no! Plasma Bolt 2. Some premium stuff over there. Alright. Crushingly, the Forced Mole to 5 does not win. I wonder how. I wonder how we couldn't win off that. Go to 7. Go to 5. Oh, my opponent is so rude. It doesn't matter because I'm flooded the heck out. But they're doing the still had all these. They're not even going to stun it because they're like, they have some other bounce spell in their hand just in case I have removal for modifier. So they want to be like, ooh, removal, get got. The worst part is I'm so flooded they didn't even need to have their random bounce spell here. If they didn't have a bounce spell here, that was wildly bold of them to not just use the relic. But again, it doesn't matter with how we drew. The world may never know. They're not going to show me the bounce. If they had it. So we can't know for sure. If they were keeping that around for a mech, and that was insanely bold of them. But again, we can't know what was in their hand there. Alright. 1 and 3 it is. Get our first loss of a draft here. I feel like the white aggro decks can be pretty good, and I think these are some of the cards that you want to get those working. Very impressed by Night Luminary. That's going far up in my pick order. Dock Worker Drone was also pretty reasonable. Starfighter Pilot was a pretty big overperformer. We drew pretty bad in a lot of these games, so surveilling 1 every turn looked pretty awesome. Not once did I get to play Vanguard, so I still don't know how I feel about that, but it is, I guess, a bit of an underperformer, because we saw it a couple times and had to, like, surveil it into the grave or mulligan it out of the hand each time that we saw it. So that does mean the 6 mana restrictive mana cost did come to bite us a little bit, which makes it a bit of an underperformer, even if we never got to actually see it in play. Cards can be underperformers in hand, too. Like, if you have a really narrow removal spell and you consistently draw it but never cast it because there's nothing to target, that would make that card an underperformer. I think the same is true for just having a big restrictive mana cost. There's a real cost to that, so however powerful the text on here is, the fact that it is 6 mana in this kind of deck is certainly a risk, and we got to see the downsides of that risk in this deck. Lightsmith was fine. We did draw a lot of cards off of it in one or two of those games. I don't think this is the best Lightsmith deck. We don't have a lot of 1 mana plays, not that many 2 mana plays either, just 5 of them. But I think in the right deck, this card could be really, really good. So I did enjoy that. Halia was great. The mana didn't work too well for her. Another card we had to surveil and mulligan away, but we actually did land her one time, and she was fantastic. Stalker was solid. Agrarian was solid, even if it didn't have much synergy. Yeah, I mean, there's some real mediocre filler in here, like the Brightspear Zealot, the Flight Deck Coordinator. I don't think we have great combos for Exosuit Savior either, but I still think this deck's a lot better than a 1-3 on average. We had just some awkward draws, awkward plays here, and there were a lot of cards in here that I quite liked that I think could go the distance, maybe in a better deck or just with better draws in the first place. So bummed to go 1-3, but you cannot win them all. We got to get one of those at some point, and I guess green-white will be our first deck to 1-3 with. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.